Hello, I'm Suman Butcher for AsianCultureVulture.com. We're here at the 71st Cannes Film Festival, and I'm with writer and director Nandita Das. Welcome to Cannes, Nandita.
Thank you, Suman.
Your film has just opened in the Uncertain Regard yesterday. It's the story of Manto. What's the reception been like, and tell us about your fascination for Manto?
Well, let's start from the beginning. So let me talk about the fascination first and then the response. I have been reading Manto for a very long time. I first read Manto in my college, and I wanted to do short stories. I wanted to film some of his short stories. That never happened. But in 2012, it was his centenary celebration, and a lot of people were writing at that time about him. A lot of articles came out, even in New Yorker and Guardian, and of course in the Indian press. But also his essays were being published and translated. And I started reading about him and not just what he had written. And I thought, wow, his life seems equally fascinating as his stories are. And also I found a strange parallel. My father is a painter and quite Manto-esque in his being, in terms of his bluntness and his sort of not being really part of the art market as Manto was. He was a very progressive writer, but never really was part of the Progressive Writers Association, or nothing that had too much dogma. So in many ways I found a sort of parallel, and also to me, everything that's happening in India and also everywhere in the world, there is a need to respond to that. Whether it is how identities are being played up and politicized, how we are dividing human beings on basis of religion or nationality or race or caste, as it is in India. So in some ways I felt the story of Manto addressed a lot of these concerns that I had. Whether it was about identities, whether it was about freedom of expression, because he too had a lot of censorship issues with his stories. He was tried 6 times for obscene writing. So he had to battle all of that, and I myself as an actor have suffered that with fire, then even with Firak, with water. So there were multiple times, and also today, whether it's the media, journalism, or whether it's art, it's not in that completely free space as it should be for it to flourish. So I felt if I had to respond to issues of today, Manto seemed like the right way to so that you don't become too didactic and you're not being too righteous or preachy about it, but you're telling a story and you feel that'll find resonance today.
And the reception yesterday at Cannes?
Yes, that was overwhelming. Also, a lot of my cast and crew have made the effort to be here and to celebrate together. So we were almost 25 of us on the stage. Thierry Fremont, the festival director, had to rattle off all those names. And I've been to this festival many times, twice as a juror, and then of course as a film watcher, lover. But it's a whole different thing when your film is there, and when finally the lights come on and you see the audience in the balconies, in front of you, behind you, everywhere, and they are a very encouraging and a supportive audience usually. So we had a wonderful standing ovation for almost 4 or 5 minutes, and it was very heartwarming.
Yes, I was lucky enough to be in the audience
Yes.
giving that standing ovation.
Well, thank you.
But one of the things you said, well deserved, I might say. But one of the things you said was that it's taken you 6 years from once you thought of the idea to do it, and you managed to get the support of the family of Manto.
Yes.
Do you want to just share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so since 2012, it almost took me 2 or 3 years to just research, and then I started writing end of 2014, and it continued till I was shooting, which was early last year. So it has been a very arduous journey of just putting everything together, the funding, the cast and the crew, and so it's definitely not been easy. And the second part of your question was, sorry?
Well, the family.
The family, yes. So I met the family early on as well when I began researching, and they are the most wonderful people, and they gave me so much unconditional support. They gave me material, they told me lovely little anecdotes that you wouldn't find in books. And also he died very young, he died at 42, so there aren't too many people who actually met him.
Well, I was going to say, like, who's around from his
his
family?
wife's sister, as we call Sali in Hindi, is there, and she's about 75, and has of course lots of memories of both of them, of both Safia and Manto. And they always said that, oh, we so deeply regret that we didn't value him enough while he was there. We kept telling him that, oh, stop drinking, stop writing, because all of that was causing trouble, not realizing that it was going to be one day such a precious work of literature. So yeah, his family has been great. His grandniece is a historian at Tufts in Boston, and she's written a book called Pity of Partition. So I also read that book, and she was also extremely supportive.
So, I mean, I love the way you weaved in the Manto's short stories,
Right.
as well as the life of the man himself. But apart from being tried for obscenity, he was a chronicler of the partition of
Yes.
India, and the stories are quite harrowing. Do you feel that we're ready to talk about that aspect of our history, as Indians and Pakistanis and even the empire, Britishers and so on?
Right. I think I don't think there's ever a bell is going to ring when we're going to be ready, so we might as well. I think it's time, in fact, that we create a process of healing, because it's been 70 years since India was partitioned, or since Pakistan was born, and the Indo-Pak relationship has always been tense, and beyond the government issues and beyond what the other issues that have been, which are many of them are valid, and we need to sort that out. But at a people-to-people level, culturally, I think we have to keep building bridges, and we have to keep understanding that they are as much a victim of their government or their terrorism as we are, of all of that. So I think for me, I feel, in fact, it's the timing couldn't have been better. I think Manto is extremely relevant, not just for India, Pakistan, but I think universally, because these issues, whether it's of freedom of expression, whether it's of identity, whether it's of displacement and where do you really belong, with all the refugee and migration issues in Europe, all of these are universal issues, and that's the power of cinema, that it transcends borders. If the core emotions are relatable and universal, they do transcend.
So, I mean, it was beautiful to watch it. It's a period piece, it's set from the 20s to the 40s.
Well, 40s mostly, yeah.
So tell us how you recreated it. Like, where did you shoot?
So I shot mostly in Bombay, because Bombay was the city that he loved, and a lot of the film is there. But of course, Bombay has also changed so much. There are grills and satellite dishes and air conditions and hoardings that, we had to, with VFX, visual effects, we had to remove some and clean up some. So it was quite difficult. I wanted to shoot in Lahore, but that time the Indo-Pak situation was very tense, and there was no way that we would be allowed to shoot there. So we had to find those locations in India. So I looked really to many different places. I'd been there to recce those places and find locations, till I really hit upon a really nice, small town in Gujarat. And it was almost like an abandoned town. So a lot of the people who live there just live in the US, and they come for their holidays, so it doesn't have the modern day clutter at all almost. And the uncanny resemblance with Lahore, especially Lahore of the 40s, because I'm sure Lahore is also now reasonably cluttered every time I go. I don't know what to compare it with of the 40s, but yes, I see that it's like the modern day influences are there. So we recreated a lot of that in Gujarat, some in Bombay, some in even Pune, which has a lot of the British architecture.
So what's the name of the village in Gujarat?
It's called Vaso.
Okay. So also, I mean, it was interesting for us, as somebody who's aware a bit about the film culture of Indian cinema, to see, all the characters from the 40s, like Ashok Kumar and the other actors.
K. Asif. Yeah.
But, I mean, this is because we understand the culture behind them, but from your own point of view, to create this artistic
environment that Manto was in, but that was his context. And I think a film has to be true to its own context first. If you're trying to please too many people, you're trying to make a global film, you end up not making a film at all, in the sense that you can't know, as Manto himself says in the film, that you only know yourself, so don't try to think like others. And in a way he writes stories which is that he's able to empathize, but those are the contradictions we all live with. So I think I wanted to be true to that context and show that he was part of that literary circle, that he was part of the film circle, he was respected. A shoe shop owner also reads him, his contemporaries also read him. So to create also, because when he leaves to Lahore, and that too on an impulse, then you know what the loss means. Only when you know the environment that he was in, that you can feel that what he's missing or what he has lost because of the decision he's taken. So it was important to set that up.
What was really interesting, how you've been able to assemble a huge cast of actors, some extremely well known and some
new and middle range.
I was very surprised to see
actors.
Mr. Javed Akhtar.
Exactly.
So how did you manage to persuade them to come and be part of this whole team?
For one, I've used up all my goodwill and credibility, whatever was left after Firak, because I used a fair amount then as well, which was my debut film in 2008. But yes, I literally called people and I said, I need you to support this film, and will you do like a half a day's work or a 1 day work? And they all said yes. So it was very overwhelming that everyone kind of really supported. And Javed Akhtar, who many people have asked him to act before because he's quite a performer and he's a man of words, so he knows it well. He hadn't, and he sort of, without batting an eyelid, he said, yes, I'll do it. And I think it's interesting for a modern day progressive contemporary writer to be kind of endorsing and supporting a progressive writer of that time in the film, of course, as a character. And then Gurdas Maan, he's like a rock star singer in Punjab, and then has a huge fan following of another type, and he was completely like, he had to look disheveled and a father searching for his daughter in a refugee camp. And Paresh Rawal, he's a very good actor. He worked in Firak. I had worked with him in there. And again in this, and
how did you get
Rishi Kapoor. I mean, he in fact, when I walked in, he said, don't even ask me to do a guest appearance because half the industry is doing that. And by the end of it, he was like, okay, I'll do it for you.
And what about Mr. Nawazuddin Siddiqui to play the lead?
Nawaz I've known for a while because he was also in Firak, my first film, in 2008. And also this role is an actor's dream role, really. And I think Nawaz's eyes are so powerful and, I think so apt, because there's something about his eyes that almost feels like he's lived a life, which he has, because he's also had a rough life, struggled a lot in his life before he's now become quite a star. But there's also some similar traits like his anger and his sensitivity, his humor. There's a lot of so I think it was easier for him to kind of get into Manto.
Congratulations on having the film at Cannes. What do you hope for the journey of the film?
Well, Cannes is a great start to a journey that's only going to probably end. In fact, now with social media and digital medium, the journey has become longer. There's a longer shelf life for films because you can get it in one of the digital platforms and people can watch it much later as well. But the real test for me or for us is really the release. I really want a good release in India and South Asia, all of South Asia, and communities everywhere. Like there are now so many Indians and Pakistanis and Bangladeshis and all around the world, and also foreign audiences. I mean, of course, as a filmmaker, you want the widest audience possible.
But do you have a specific India?
We have a sales agent for international, and a Viacom 18, which is a very big distribution house. They are going to distribute it in India. So as of now, we are in good hands.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Nandita Das, and congratulations from AsianCultureVulture.com.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.